In this segment, we'd love to work through a great standard called Stella by Starlight. With me, I'm really proud to announce, is Andy LaVerne. Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Hi, Scott.
I'm
Great.
so glad to have you on the show.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I mean, it means a lot that you're willing to come and share your incredible talent with all of us, and especially help our viewers kind of get a peek into the mind of someone who really does this quite well. So now this is obviously a huge standard, right? I mean, who doesn't play Stella
Absolutely.
at some point?
Everybody plays this tune.
Yeah, and it's you've actually recorded it, I guess, on a couple.
I have a couple of times. Once with John Abercrombie in duet.
Okay.
John Abercrombie's guitar player.
Sure.
And myself. And a couple other times too. I think I did a trio version also.
Cool. Well, before we started, you were telling me that you've got a long history with Bill Evans, and
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I was very fortunate in that I met Bill when I was about 18 or 19 years old at the Village Vanguard in New York, and I ended up taking some lessons with him.
Cool.
Which was really fantastic. And we became friends after that. And, you know, I saw him as the years went on, went to see him. He came to see me at some of my gigs, whatever. The irony of the story is that his last gig in New York, he had a gig, a 6-night gig. So he did Tuesday and Wednesday. This was a place called Fat Tuesdays in New York, which is no longer there. New York is still there, but the club isn't. But in any case, you know, these clubs come and go pretty quickly.
Right.
So Bill did Tuesday and Wednesday, and then I got a call to come in to do Thursday through Sunday with his trio, you know, as the Bill Evans trio. Now, the bad part of the story was that he passed away on that Monday, right after the last Sunday. So it was quite ironic.
That is ironic.
Yeah.
Well, at least you had the time to share with him, I suppose, and also obviously I kind of hear you channeling Bill Evans in a lot of your playing, which is really nice.
You know, it's a big influence. I mean, when I think back in terms of the amount of time that I've spent listening to music, a large portion of that time has been spent listening to Bill.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to hear you and John, you know, working in a little clinic, and it's such a nice the piano guitar thing without any rhythm section was so nice to hear. But that day I really heard a lot of that, and the changes are so nice. And I know he's really, you know, kind of reharmonized a bunch of the changes in all these tunes.
He has.
Although they're pretty deep. We'll try not to blow people out of the water here. But enough chatting for now. Why don't you play a couple measures of the tune like in the head, so at least we can get the tune in our head and what key we're in and everything. Yeah, that is just such the chord changes are so nice in that tune.
They really are.
Now, when you start out, I mean, obviously we always start from kind of this base level of, hey, I have a lead sheet in front of me. We're obviously not going to be reading a piece of sheet music verbatim. Right. We have the melody line, we have the chord changes. Well, you know, now what's that step off the paper into the land of, I'm going to turn this into, you know, a piece of music that I'm happy playing versus kind of blindly just going down the lead sheet. How do you kind of start?
Well, that's a good question. I think, well, first of all, just, you know, the setting that I might be playing this in, whether it's solo piano, duet with John Abercrombie, or a trio, or even a larger group where I'm comping. So I have different functions in every one of those settings.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
So when I'm playing solo piano, well, the first thing I might want to do is put maybe a little intro to it. So I did a massive reharmonization of this tune, which means taking the chord changes and then just totally changing them. So you're reharmonizing, you know, with a new set of chord changes.
Now that probably blows some of our viewers out of the water, saying, what do you mean you can't change the chord changes? It's not the tune anymore, right?
Right.
You say, well, heck yes it is. That's kind of the advantage.
It's called artistic license.
Okay.
Because you know, and the thing is, when you're playing solo piano, you can pretty much do whatever you want to do at any point in time. You can modulate, you can you know, speed up, slow down, tempo-wise.
No one's following you.
Yeah.
You're not having to follow anyone else.
Exactly. You can do whatever you want. Throw other changes in if you want, passing chords or approach chords or things like that. So these are things that I do when I'm playing solo piano. So a good
like to move it to another
intro.
Yeah, right. So you're kind of playing a pedal tone.
Yeah, on the 5.
And what are the chords you're playing on top? You're playing an E flat?
E flat minor.
Yeah, okay.
To a D minor, which is sort of like to an F major.
Sure.
And then it resolves to B flat minor.
Yeah, E flat minor.
B flat minor.
E flat minor.
B flat. B as in boy.
Oh, B flat. That's I was like, yeah, that didn't sound right. Okay.
Yeah. So, which is really the tune itself is in B flat major. So this is another thing that Bill used to do. He would change chord qualities.
Cool.
So changing from major to minor is kind of an interesting.
Well, it's kind of ear candy.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It's a tweak to do it.
Yeah, and then from there,
Start in and
start in
working
on
through.
the tune.
Now, if you're not doing solo piano, like if you're playing with John in a duet, how do you handle who does what?
Well, usually, somebody's going to play the melody, right?
Right.
And a lot of times it's John because it's more of a single note instrument, the guitar can be anyway.
Sure.
So a lot of times he'll play the melody. If he was playing the melody, I would just play chords in back of him.
Okay. So you're really getting all the harmony minus any melodic line.
Exactly.
Okay, and vice versa. Then, would he comp behind you?
Yeah,
if you were?
sure. If he comped behind me, I might play something simpler in my left hand.
Well, you answered the question. I was going to say, well, how are you both comping at the same time? Isn't that all doing? Aren't you stepping on each other's toes?
Not
you're
really.
Kind of staying out.
As long as we agree on the chord changes,
okay,
and we know what the chord changes are that we're going to play, there can be a few little adjustments.
Now, let me take it another step. This is kind of an interesting information to kind of get out there. If you're playing like in a trio, all of a sudden you're doing it all. Well, you're not playing the bass, but you're again totally responsible for leading the group. That's
right.
Right.
Usually, a lot of times when I'm playing trio, I might play something similar to what I'm doing when I'm playing solo piano. So if I was playing the melody on this in trio, I might do those full chords with the bass notes.
With the bass note, even though the bass player is going to be playing.
At that point, you're not conflicting with the bass player. But if I was, maybe playing a solo, I would play voicings that didn't necessarily have the roots in them.
I think that's something now that you said that, I mean, sometimes we take a step backward and make sure that's really clear to the viewers. It's an interesting thing that if you're playing solo piano, you've got to play the bass line.
That's right.
You've got to play the harmony, the chords, and you got to get the melody played,
which
is what makes this a little bit tougher challenge.
Yeah.
But when you're playing with a trio, sometimes or a bass player along with it, it's easier that you want to be able to leave that bass line out, so that the chords you're playing.
That's right.
You're not stepping on his toes.
You're not getting in
that
the way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know it sounds kind of obvious, but I'm not sure that's gotten clear to a lot of people, and that's a healthy thing to know how to do that way. So, does anything funny happen before we hear you play the whole thing? Anything odd happen in the bridge of this tune? I mean, any traps we may run into, or?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not quite sure where the bridge is actually on this tune, as far as
the
form
not go through? I guess
goes.
Oh, it really doesn't, does it? I guess it just kind of goes through the head section.
Yeah, it seems like it's an A-B tune maybe, because it kind of repeats at the end.
Yeah, it does repeat, but I guess it really doesn't go to a whole separate section.
I mean, maybe
that way.
That part might be considered a bridge.
Yeah. And then back into the boom.
Right.
So I guess not then. All right. Well, listen. Yeah, let's hear you play. I can't wait to hear this. I love you play. This will be good. I'm anxious to hear you play this all the way through, and I'm sure we're going to hear some Bill Evans-esque, if that's the right word.
I hope so.
Changes in there. We'll do it. So this is Andy LaVerne playing Stella by Starlight. Yeah. Man, that was great. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Thanks so much, Scott.